8 cabinet positions up for grabs. Here's Jagmeet Singh. Let's listen in live.
Here we go.
Right now, Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. I hear it everywhere I go. People cannot find a home that they can afford. They can't buy their groceries. And on top of that, we have Trump threatening tariffs at 25%, which put hundreds and thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. And instead of focusing on these issues, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are focused on themselves. They're fighting themselves instead of fighting for Canadians. For that reason, today I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
Hey!
I'm going to do it in French.
Hey yo! Hey yo!
Oral question.
Oral questions. Questions on Honorable Leader of the Opposition to be next Prime Minister Canada.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has lost control.
Yes, he has.
He is clinging to power. We knew that he had lost control of the voters, of immigration, of spending, of inflation, of the cost of housing. But now he has lost control of his cabinet. The Vice Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance has stepped down, and she stepped down hours before presenting Canada's fall economic statement with an enormous deficit. When will we have an election? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Our government is looking forward to presenting the economic statement this afternoon, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the member for University Rosedale for everything that she has done for this country and everything that she will continue to do for this country. Her accomplishments make quite a long list, and her place in history is assured, and we are very proud of everything that she has done for this government.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
Prime, yet he clings to power. He's lost control of immigration, lost control of the borders, lost control of spending, deficits, inflation, housing costs. In fact, his former, apparently, finance minister was trying to get spending under control by capping the deficit at an already crazy $40 billion. But he took Carbon Tax Carney's advice and pushed her beyond that guardrail and was trying to throw her off the cliff. She's now resigned minutes before presenting her fall economic update. This cannot go on. When will we have a carbon tax election?
Put some W's down in the chat.
The government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government looks forward to presenting the fall economic statement later this afternoon. But I would also like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude for all that the member from University Rosedale has accomplished for this country and will continue to do for this country. She has played an integral role in this first of all, standing up for Canada and defending NAFTA, bringing forward universal childcare, and the incredible work that she has done in defending Ukraine. We are very grateful for all she's contributed to this government and to Canada. Thank
you. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
For the finance minister. Who are you?
Hey!
The Honourable Leader of the government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at a time when Canadians are struggling, we are happy to bring forward measures that are going to assist them. Things like the GST tax cut that took place starting this past Saturday, going until February 15th. And while the Conservative leader and the members of his caucus stay focused on us, we're going to stay focused on helping.
That is so funny.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it was a serious question. Who is the finance minister? After the finance minister's resignation this morning, automatically the industry minister became Minister of Finance. And congratulations. But he immediately quit After him, in the line of precedence, it was the two Randys. Well, they don't want it. So now we don't have a finance minister just a couple of minutes before the fall economic statement will be presented. So where's the minister?
The Honourable Leader of the Government,
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said, our government is looking forward to presenting the fall economic statement later this afternoon. There are important measures in that update, measures that are important for Canadians. It's time for the Leader of the Conservatives to recognize that while he's focused on us, we are focused on Canadians.
the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, just to underline the chaos we're faced with here, the finance minister resigned the day she was to present the fall budget, which was going to contain a massive deficit overrun. The job then went automatically to the industry minister, who immediately resigned, like on the spot, which then went down the line, and the next person in order was the famous two Randys. And they're not available to do the job either. We're now less than 2 hours away from the fall economic update. Why won't the Prime Minister have the courage to come in here, present it himself, and put it for a confidence vote tonight?
Yeah. Jagmeet did say that he's calling on Trudeau to resign.
I would like to remind all members, as I did during statements today, for members to be careful not to refer to other sitting members by their names, but to use their titles or to use their writing names. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition continues to play politics in this place, we look forward to presenting the fall economic statement later this afternoon that will have a series of important measures for Canadians, things that are going to help them with the affordability challenges, that are going to put Canada, Canadian jobs, and the Canadian economy first. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I would like to ask the honourable member from St. Albert, Edmonton, to please not take the floor.
Can we put some W's down in the chat for Trudeau's resignation?
Recognized by the Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. We already knew that between 20 and 40 Liberal MPs no longer had confidence in the Prime Minister. We also knew that 8 ministers would be jumping ship. Today, the Minister of Finance decided to step down instead of presenting the fall economic statement. She wrote, black and white, that she disagrees with the Prime Minister on the best path forward for Canada. So she has also taken away her confidence in the Prime Minister. We are watching this government, this Liberal government, fall apart, and it's pretty ugly to see.
It's pretty awesome.
Minister call an election.
It's pretty awesome, I'm not going to lie. I think we all love it.
The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my colleague for his question. As I mentioned, as a government, we are looking forward to presenting the fall economic statement later this afternoon. There are important measures in there for Canadians when it comes to affordability in particular, and we are exclusively focused on Canadians, and we will continue to protect Canadian economy and Canadian jobs. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The Deputy Prime Minister has quit because of the Liberals' electoral handouts. She said that Canadians know when we're working for them and when we're focused on ourselves. Mr. Speaker, people can see through their political games. Quebecers don't want these political handouts. Businesses don't want them. Even the Finance Minister doesn't want them. The only person who wants these is the NDP leader and the Prime Minister of Canada. Will they finally stop sabotaging Canada's economy for, so they can buy votes? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And once again, I would like to thank my colleague for his question. cutting the GST on essentials for Canadians is something that's important for many Canadians. And I've heard from many people in my riding who have said that this is something that is important for them. Restaurants, small and medium-sized businesses say that this is something that's important for them, and we are proud of having put that motion forward.
The honourable member from Burnaby South.
Oh,
People can't afford their groceries. People can't find
yeah.
a home to call their own. And the Conservatives are laughing.
Hey, call it election, buddy. Come on. Sell out. Sell out, the Conservatives are chirping. Sell out. Put some L's down in the chat for Jagmeet. He is a bit of a sellout, isn't he? Put some L's down.
The honourable member from Burnaby South from the top, please.
Canadians literally cannot afford the groceries they need. They can't afford to find a home to call their own. And now Trump, buddies of the Conservatives, MAGA Conservatives love this guy, Trump is threatening hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada. And the Prime Minister is more focused on himself, on infighting. The Prime Minister cannot remain in that position. Will he resign?
The honourable minister for innovation.
Mr. Speaker, this is not for slogan.
Chihuahua.
This is partisanship
He was 5 minutes minister for 5 minutes.
to make jokes, Mr. Speaker. This is about rallying. This is a time where Canadians needs to know that all the members are standing behind them, that we're going to invest in Canadians, that we're going to invest in this country, that we're going to invest in our workers, and that we're going to invest in our industry, Mr. Speaker, and that we're going to prepare Canada to be the best prepared to be able to deal with our U.S. threat. Mr. Speaker, this is
For all you people that are in the Moncton area or even in New Brunswick, this is our liberal leader here. This is Jeanette Pettipaw Taylor. And if anybody wants to go to her office and that, it's down on St. George Street. And you can't miss it. There's a big sign right out front. It's right beside the Highfield Baptist Church. Go redress your government, folks.
the time we show that we're all Canadians.
You shut the fuck up. You were finance minister for 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
The honourable member for South.
So I'll ask again in French. Les gens.
Oh, that's funny.
People are having a very hard time paying for groceries. Young people can't find affordable housing. And beyond that, we have the threat of Trump's tariffs. And that's putting hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada in danger. And instead of dealing with issues that are important for Canadians, the Prime Minister is dealing with fighting in his own party. It's clear that the Prime Minister cannot continue. Will he resign today? Yes or no?
Wow.
The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker,
Look at Sean Fraser updating his resume.
for jokes, this isn't a time for partisanship. It's certainly not a time for conservative.
He's going to be there until the next shuffle, so like 2-3 more days.
Speaker, to work together as parliamentarians to defend Canada, to invest in Canada, to defend our workers, to invest in our industry. And Mr. Speaker, I call on all members of this House
invest in an election.
duty to work for the good of Canada so that we can face the incoming American administration. Mr. Speaker, today we are all Canadians. Let's work together.
The honourable leader.
Here we go.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP leader is absolutely right. This cannot continue. This Prime Minister cannot go on like this. Housing costs have doubled. Food bank use has doubled. The debt has doubled. Gun crime has doubled. And now we face troubling tariff threats from a president who can see weakness coming from a mile away. The Prime Minister must leave this job, but there's only one person who can remove him, and that's the leader of the NDP. Will he put the country ahead of his pension and vote for a carbon tax election now?
There you go. Yeah. Drop some W's in the chat, folks. He's threatening to mute the mic. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Oh, come on! By the way, you can try to get him to stop muting the mic by going to the website down below in the description called stopmutingthemic.ca and sign my petition.
The preamble to that question dealt with the administration of government. The question itself did not, and the chair has made it clear that...
If you haven't yet already, I'd like to encourage you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Prime Minister has lost control. The Prime Minister's own deputy quit just hours before her economic statement, all of a sudden saying, Canadians know when we're focused on ourselves, and describing a newfound disdain for costly political gimmicks. Those are her quotes. This after her own political rival, Mark Carney, wrote the fall economic statement full of things that she didn't want to present. The old boys club isn't in charge. Canadians are. And it's time for credible leadership in the seriousness of this moment, not the fake feminism of this phony Prime Minister. It's time for Canadians to decide. So will anyone or everyone over there finally agree?
Wow. Look at that.
Leader of the government in the House.
Kicking them when they're down.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I
Look at this Lucy Lou look-alike.
to presenting the fall economic statement is going to have a series of important measures for Canadians. At a time like this, it is important that all of us band together, united as Canadians, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect the Canadian economy, protect Canadian jobs, and to stand up for Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, they can't even stand by each other for delivering the fiscal update. The finance minister resigned. She lost confidence in the Prime Minister. Last night, the failed housing minister and the worst immigration minister in the history of this country also resigned. A couple of Randys, and now they're up to 9 ministers that need to be replaced. He's lost control of the government. The party of backroom boys is over. The backbench should look up from their laptops, and the NDP leader shouldn't be the only one in this House with confidence in the Prime Minister. Present the statement and call a vote today.
Yeah. Show us the goods. Show us the fall economic statement. Come on. Put some W's down. Ah, she's on fire.
Again, I'm just going to, for the last time, order. And ask members once again to remind themselves not to refer to members by their first names. The Honourable Minister for Housing Infrastructure.
This is his last at bat.
Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure who she's talking about, but I'm still here for now.
For a day.
Mr. Speaker, there are two kinds of people who run for office in politics. There are people who want to do something, and there are people who want to be somebody. And I can tell you, on our side of the house, we want to do things. We want to build the houses to make sure families can afford to keep their food over their head. We want to make sure families can afford to keep their food on the table to feed their kids. We want to make sure people can find a job to go to that gives them a sense of pride and allows them to contribute to their communities. On the Conservative side, their guy has been writing essays about why he should be Prime Minister since he was a teenager.
Yeah, right, buddy. That's your last at bat.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
On Friday, the Prime Minister told Canada's first female finance minister that she was fired, but sweet, and present their wildly overspent budget on Monday so that he and an unelected man, Mark Carbon Tax Carney, would take the blame for their broken budget. He then, unbothered, released a video of him making cinnamon buns to get the women folks vote. Any woman in that caucus defend that man instead of calling for an election now.
Did he really make a video making cinnamons? That's misogynistic.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I didn't realize cinnamon buns were a gendered food, but what I would say is that her
what a tool.
how that member and conservative
Ain't no dude knows how to make cinnamons.
country than anything else. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Are facing violence in the streets. They can't afford groceries. They can't afford to buy presents for their kids for the holidays. They can't afford anything. Canadian women are far worse off under this fake feminist Prime Minister. And now he fired Canada's first female finance minister because she dared question him. That sounds pretty familiar. No strong woman exists in that caucus. Why would any woman defend this man instead of calling for an election?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for that member opposite, but I think she's speaking from her own experience with the leader of the official opposition when she said that she wasn't going to support him and then spent a year in the hinterlands, Mr. Speaker. What I will say is that when it comes to actually doing things that support women, we have done that on this side of the House. Whether it's affordable childcare, as it is making it possible for hundreds of thousands of women to join the workforce, making contraceptions free, or the Canada Child Benefit that is helping families pay the bills. And what do Conservative members of Parliament do every time? They vote against them. So actions speak louder than words, Mr. Speaker.
Just so you guys know, you guys all remember this DEI hire? This is Marcy Ian from Canada AM and the social, CTV, Bell Media, where he met his wife. All these connections help.
Oh, look at you trying to stand up for yourself.
The member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has lost control. He's lost control of the economy. He's lost control of immigration. He's lost control of so many files. And now he's lost control of the government. It's long past time for an election. This Prime Minister has sat too long here for any good that he has been doing. In the name of God, will he go to Rideau Hall, call an election, and end the chaos?
There you go. That's something that we can all agree on.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you well know, and as every member in this place knows, just because a Conservative member of Parliament wishes something does not mean that it actually happens. But what happened over the past couple of weeks, Mr. Speaker, is the government secured the confidence of this House. And the government does enjoy the confidence of this House, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we will be presenting the fall economic statement later today, which we look forward to sharing with Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie.
On assist.
We're watching a historic moment here. The Deputy Prime Minister saying that she disagreed with the Prime Minister on the path forward for Canada. The Deputy Prime Minister no longer has confidence in this Prime Minister to govern. Lack of confidence is added to that of 8 other ministers. The Prime Minister can't claim to have the confidence of the people if he doesn't even have the confidence of his own ministers. Will he do the democratic thing and put his future in the hands of the people and call elections? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, I know that all of our colleagues want to work for Quebec and the entire country, Mr. Speaker. At a time like this, what Quebecers expect is not to hear fiery slogans, Mr. Speaker. They expect us to work together. This is a moment where we need to work together to prepare Quebec and Quebec's industry to face the American administration. We need to prepare Quebec and the rest of Canada to win in the 21st century economy. And I can tell all Quebecers that that's what we're doing on this side of the House. That's what we wake up and do every day, Mr. Speaker. We get up to serve Canadians. We want to be there for Quebecers and the whole country. We'll continue to do so. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. In 2020, the Prime Minister made Bill Morneau step down because he wasn't spending enough, and he put the current Deputy Prime Minister in his place. She has now quit because she wasn't spending enough. Imagine how much the third finance minister is going to have to spend to keep their job.
Oh, wow.
They're going to have to go over to the NDP to find somebody who's ready to spend that much. Seriously, this is a disastrous economic statement. Will the Prime Minister resign?
Wow, even the Bloc and the NDP, everyone's calling on it.
Speaker, Quebecers know that the Bloc likes to pick a fight, Mr. Speaker. But today, Mr. Speaker, the government is going to present a fall economic statement, Mr. Speaker, in which will show that we're there for Canada's industry and for workers across the country. At a time like now, Mr. Speaker, what Quebecers and Canadians expect from everyone, and especially from the Bloc Québécois, is that we be there to defend their interests, that we be there for families, for seniors. That's exactly what we're doing on this side of the House, and I hope the Bloc will stand up and support the government, Mr. Speaker.
The reason why they haven't said anything yet, Chrystia Freeland said wants to stay within a $40 billion guardrail. And they're saying that it's gone over by billions. I bet you that it's gone to $65 billion, and that's why nobody is saying anything right now, and that's why Trudeau isn't in here. He's in Ottawa right now, but he's such a fucking coward he won't even show up for question period and answer questions that Canadians really want to know.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The government is getting ready to table an economic update without a finance minister. Nobody, not even the Liberals, wants to wear this economic statement. It's the ultimate proof that we can't go forward with a $60 billion deficit just to offer political gimmicks. A deficit for measures that neither Quebecers nor businesses have asked for. Measures in this have been denounced by economists, including in the finance department. It's not surprising that nobody in the Liberal Party wants to be responsible for it. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and stop with these measures? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, we want to move forward. If the Bloc wants to go backwards, that's up to them. But on this side, we're going to go forward, Mr. Speaker. Why? Because families in Quebec, Mr. Speaker, who are watching us, need a government that's there for them, that's there for dental care, for kids, for seniors, for industry, for Quebec, for Canada. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, will continue to fight. We will continue to fight every day for all Canadians because the country deserves that we be there to stand up for it, Mr. Speaker.
Man, what a crazy day.
Members to please not take the floor when other members have been recognized by the Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, everyone knows it. The Prime Minister has lost control. He's lost control of immigration. He's lost control of the cost of housing. He's lost control of his caucus. And finally, he's lost control of public spending. And he's lost the confidence of his Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. The Prime Minister has caused a huge amount of damage for Canada. We know it. Most Canadians know it. But now it's time to say enough. Can the Prime Minister please take his responsibility and call an election today? The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. Mr. Speaker, the government later today will be presenting its economic plan. It's a solid plan for Canadians, which will ensure fairness, it will ensure good jobs, and it will continue to make sure that Canadians' economic interests are respected. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I can't believe that the minister believes the words he's saying. We know that this doesn't make any sense. The finance minister quit this morning because of this. She knows that none of this makes any sense.
And none of this makes any sense, for sure.
Given the threat that we're facing, the way that we do it, that we deal with that will define us for a generation. We know that Canadians are smart. Will the Prime Minister call an election today? The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. It's time, Mr. Speaker, to put that partisanship aside and to rally as Canadians together, because Canada will have to face a protectionist threat from the other side of the border. And we are preparing for that, Mr. Speaker. We will have a solid plan, and I hope that we will be able to count on that member and his party when Canada will face that threat. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, what's happening is serious and it's unprecedented. The Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, quit just a few hours before the fall economic statement.
Yeah, it's pretty massive.
It's, just a bomb that's gone off, because even in the United States and around the world, people are talking about this, and in a bad way for Canada. That's the reality that we're looking at today, Mr. Speaker. The former finance minister said no more than $40 billion of deficit. The Prime Minister pushed her aside to listen to Mark Carney. Will the Minister of Industry please tell us what Mark Carney's deficit will be when it's presented in 2 hours? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I have a huge amount of respect for the member for Louis Saint Laurent. And as my colleague has already said, we will be presenting the fall economic statement later today, Mr. Speaker. A fall economic statement that'll be there for families. It's an economic statement that'll be there for workers, an economic statement that'll be there for industry, but also, Mr. Speaker, an economic statement that'll be important. And we're expecting that the Conservatives will be ready to support it so that we can face the threat from the United States, Mr. Speaker. Canadians expect better than slogans, Mr. Speaker. Canadians expect actions. Will the Conservatives have the courage to defend Canada and to vote with the government to prepare Canada for the future, Mr. Speaker?
So you have 4 years since this major influx of immigration and everything coming up from all over the world, but through the southern border and that. And then you allow people to fly into our country because it's the only way that they can get here is to fly or take a boat. And you flood our streets and allow all these criminals to come in, all these terrorists to come in so that they can try and cross the border to go into the States. All you're doing is supporting terrorism. You're not helping the country at all. So sit down, shut the fuck up, and get the fuck out of government. You're nothing but a worthless fucking chihuahua.
For an election yesterday.
Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard that Liberals are a shiver looking for a spine to crawl up, and we're seeing this play out in real time as they've let postal workers and, in fact, all workers down. At this time, when Canada Post CEOs got bonus after bonus while denying fair wages to its workers, this government continues to betray people and cave to corporate interests. As the former Deputy Prime Minister said, Canadians know when their government is not working for them, but working for themselves. New Democrats know where we stand. We stand up for workers every single day. When will this government do the same?
That's so funny.
The Honourable Minister of Labour and for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, Canada went through a 4-week postal strike where letter carriers, who we do thank for their service to Canadians and who I know we all have deep affinity for, were out for a very long time. Not only the government, but the Canada Industrial Relations Board has judged there to be a fundamental impasse in the negotiations. We have found an imaginative way forward, a way to get a collective agreement for Canada Post and its hardworking letter carriers, Mr.
Speaker. The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Lady Seat.
Mr. Speaker, they are not listening. The former Deputy Prime Minister said it best today. Canadians know when the government is working for them or for themselves. Well, the Liberals have made it clear where their focus lies. The Minister of Labour's out-of-touch response last week to postal workers is a slap in the face. They deserve safety at work and livable wages. People are tired of the Liberals and Conservatives siding with rich CEOs at their expense. Now Canadians want to know, will the Minister of Labour be the next to resign?
Hear, hear.
Wow. Hey, folks, drop a like on the video if you haven't yet. And make sure you subscribe to the channel.
As that member well knows, postal workers and Canada Post were struggling to find a path forward at the negotiating table. It had gone on for 4 weeks. Canadians were quite rightly, whether they were in Indigenous or remote communities, whether they were small business persons, whether they were people expecting medicines, Mr. Speaker, we were being pressed to act. We found an imaginative way forward with an industrial inquiry commission. We will ensure that Canada Post operates for the holidays, Mr. Speaker, and we're glad that we did.
Good, they say.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to talk about something that's on everybody's mind. And that is the Canadian Dental Care Plan. Skipped a bit.
No, it's not.
Because of the cost. But thanks to the Canadian Dental Care Plan, more than 1 million Canadians now receive that care. And every day that number continues to grow. Mr. Speaker, application.
Even if I didn't have teeth right now, I wouldn't care about this. I just talk like this and say Trudeau's about to resign.
The Minister of Diversity and Inclusion, please tell us how persons with disabilities are being helped by this important plan. Thank you.
No, nobody gives a rat's ass. Sorry to tell you, bud.
The Minister for Diversity and Inclusion.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Dental Care Plan is already saving Canadians an average more than $730 per year.
Desperate attempt, eh? Look at us. We're helping.
Living with disabilities access dental care. Mr. Speaker, we know this is making a huge difference in the lives of people on the ground. We also know, Mr. Speaker, dental care is health care, and we will continue to make sure Canadians are getting the support that they need. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
This week, Prime Minister has lost control. Carbon tax Carney wrote the fiscal update, filled it with poison pills, so he could blame the finance minister while pushing her off the fiscal cliff, so he can take her job and eventually the Prime Minister's job. The finance minister figured out the plan, so she resigned in protest. She said she has confidence in this weak Prime Minister and carbon tax Carney's plan. If the Prime Minister's own caucus and cabinet don't have confidence in him, even though the leader of the NDP does, why should Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, in a moment where Canadians are looking for leadership, the Conservative asking the question can only come up with names to lobby towards his opponents.
Oh, this guy is so funny. This is his last day, by the way. Whenever question period is done for the holidays, you won't see Sean Fraser anymore because he's going to be shuffled out. That's why he resigned. So in case you're wondering why you're seeing him right now,
it's
just a formality at this point.
Hear the question and hear the answer. The Honourable Minister from the start.
From the top. Mr. Speaker, the very best that the Conservatives can offer to this conversation is name-calling, mudslinging, not solutions to the problems that Canadians are facing. When I talk to people at home, they want their governments to be focusing on creating good jobs to make sure people can afford to put food on the table. They want to make sure that governments are advancing policies to invest in healthcare and housing. They want to make sure we're doing more to protect the environment. Every time we put policies on the table to accomplish these ends, the Conservatives throw their hands up in the air, vote against, and just sling mud towards their opponents. That is not what people in my community want. It is not what Canadians deserve. We're going to advance solutions that introduce real and meaningful changes that will benefit people who live in this country.
I'm going to ask the Honourable Member from Dufferin-Caledon, please, to hold off on making comments while the other people have the floor. The Honourable Member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
He's right. After 9 years of that incompetent minister and the Prime Minister, Canadians are looking for leadership. Carbon tax Carney's Canadian comeback fueled a fiscal feud for the former finance minister. Carney wrote the fiscal update, pushed insane inflationary spending, and brought in the 2-month tax trick while trying to blame the finance minister for taking Canada's finances off a cliff. Will he stop passing the blame on to women in his caucus and call a carbon tax election now so common sense Conservatives can give the power back to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I was wrong before when I said all they had was name-calling. Apparently they have alliteration as well. But Mr. Speaker, that is not going to put food on the table for people who need it in my community or his. It is not going to put a roof over the head of people who are vulnerable in this country. Mr. Speaker, if he wants to make this argument about whether women will be supported, I wonder if he has ever approached the leader of the Conservative Party about using hashtags to specifically attract the attention of men who hate women to...
That's not at all true.
He's asked questions about why he's canceled the investigation as to who was behind it, or perhaps it's because he knows it was the Conservative leader himself.
Fake news. Never been faker.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, everything is out of control. Home prices have doubled. Food bank use is seeing 2 million users in a single month. And the real fiscal advisor to this Prime Minister wrote the financial update for this afternoon and included a temporary 2-month tax trick and is set to smash through the massive $40 billion deficit promise that was made by the finance minister. When they tried to blame the economic vandalism on her, she quit, saying that she doesn't have confidence in this Prime Minister. Now, they can't tell us how much they've spent. They can't tell us who's in charge. How can anyone have confidence in this Prime Minister?
Yeah, not a single person can.
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives seem to know the cost of everything but the value of nothing. They do not see value in investing in childcare, which has not only reduced costs for families, but led to the largest increase in women's participation in the labor force in the history.
The reason why they keep talking like this and keep avoiding the question is because they know that they went way over the budget and they're all about to get fired. So, like this little prick here, he's running like a scared little bitch.
This country. They don't seem to believe there is value in investing in social housing, in public housing, in affordable housing, so everyone in this country can have a roof over their head. They don't believe in the value of the Canada Child Benefit, which is ensuring middle-class families in this country can put food on the table. So before he continues to sling mud and arrows on this side of the House, he perhaps should look inward and ask why he is not even allowed to advocate on behalf of his community, because his leader has said that's just not in order.
That's not what happened.
Not to worry, we won't be seeing him for much longer.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Meadow Lakes.
Yeah, we talk about having confidence. This is coming from a minister who said just today that he's not going to continue to serve in the cabinet of that prime minister. Just like the finance minister who said she doesn't have confidence, or the 7 other ministers over there, or the 1 in 5 Liberal MPs who said they don't have confidence in this NDP Liberal prime minister who broke housing, who broke immigration, who broke our finances in this country. These Liberals talk about cost, but they have absolutely no idea how much they've spent. No government has ever spent so much to achieve as little as this government has. We know why the NDP leader has confidence in this prime minister. It's for his pension. But why should Canadians?
Well said. Put some W's in the chat for that. That was pretty good.
Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague is right about one thing. I did announce this morning that I'm not going to be seeking re-election. But I can tell you that's a matter of confidence. I can tell him it's that I have confidence. I am going to be the best father to my kids that I could possibly be.
Yeah, nobody cares about that, though. Your job is to be a politician. We don't care about your personal life.
Thank you for the opportunity to engage in the tete-a-tete over the years. This may be one of the last opportunities that I have, and I want to use it to make this point. Canadians want governments to invest to increase the quality of life that they get to enjoy. We seem not to be able to agree on that basic tenet. On this side of the House, we will put measures in place to support families, not advocate for cuts.
His last ever at bat, and he got cut off. Put some L's in the chat for Sean Fraser. Oh, that's so funny.
Quote the Deputy Prime
Minister. He got cut off for time.
When they know when we're focusing on ourselves. Mr. Speaker,
I'm going to pass out.
71% of Quebecers believe that the GST vacation of the Prime Minister's check are
that's funny.
measures. Democracy loses out as a whole when some Quebecers believe that a Prime Minister is trying to buy them off. Will the Prime Minister finally realise that there is a limit to putting Liberal priorities ahead of the common good? The Honourable Minister for Innovation. Mr. Speaker, we have no lessons to learn from the Bloc Québécois. If the Bloc were truly here for Quebecers, they would vote for their best interests. For months, the Bloc is contributing to the Conservative tactics of blocking Parliament to stop bills that would make Quebec a better place. Instead of trying to squabble, can the Bloc finally go beyond squabbles and actually work for Quebecers to allow this Parliament to function? Quebecers expect better from the Bloc, and we'll always be here on this side of the House to defend Quebecers. The Honourable Member for Berthier, Masquinongé.
If you guys haven't yet, I'd like to encourage you to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
In pushing for Liberal measures at all costs. She has confirmed that the Prime Minister is no longer legitimate. He can't move forward with a full economic update without a finance minister. She confirms that the Prime Minister cannot continue to govern without a new plebiscite from the people. The Deputy Prime Minister has confirmed all of this. Will the Prime Minister finally trigger an election?
Everyone's calling for it.
The Honourable Minister for Labour. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois simply rejects economic updates without having read it. That's why they voted against the Canada childcare benefit. That's why they voted against our dental plan for Canadians. And many Quebecers are benefiting from these programs. They voted against the guaranteed income supplement. They systematically vote against all assistance for Quebecers. So we shouldn't be surprised that the Bloc, once again, is rejecting our measures that will help Canadians.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Carbon Tax Carney is the Prime Minister's official economic advisor, and his plan was always to push out the Finance Minister and take her place. Let's look at his advice so far. He forced her to bring in the GST tax trick. Carney also forced through insane inflationary spending, smashing through that $40 billion guardrail. Carney's economic plan is so bad, the Finance Minister resigned in protest rather than humiliate herself into reading his homework. Now, nobody knows who the Finance Minister is. Mr. Speaker, enough is enough. Why won't the Prime Minister do the only honourable thing left and let Canadians decide for themselves in a carbon tax election?
Well said, Mr. Scheer.
The Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Another day, another attack against Canadians from the Conservative Party of Canada. Anytime someone steps up who disagrees with their vision for Canada, what do? Personal attacks, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve better than the slogans and personal attacks that we get from Conservative members of Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
The attacks on this government's economic record are coming from inside the Liberals' own cabinet, Mr. Speaker. And it looks more and more like Carbon Tax Carney's plan to push out the Prime Minister is working as well, too. For Carbon Tax Carney, it's always been profits over people. Look at his record. Since he became the top economic advisor to the PM, he's moved his own company's headquarters to New York City. He got caught unethically lobbying the UK government. And his firm Brookfield is now looking for $10 billion in taxpayers' money for a new investment fund, which would be managed by Brookfield, his own company. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve better than this government in shambles. Why not call a carbon tax election and let Canadians decide for themselves?
Let the people decide.
To the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the people's house, and in it you should be debating things that are pertinent to the administration of government. But what we hear from the House Leader from the Conservative Party of Canada is attacks on Canadians, Mr. Speaker. The person he's talking about is not a sitting member of Parliament.
It's not attacks on Canadians, and yes, he may not be a sitting member of Parliament, but Justin Trudeau put him in as a finance guy in the Liberal caucus. So you sit down, shut the fuck up, and pack your shit, because you're gone. And my prediction is that Justin Trudeau is going to prorogue government today. This way, then, they cannot put in a vote of non-confidence or anything. They have to shut down the government to the next seating, which is at the end of January, which will, by the time that happens, when they come back in at the end of January, even if they call an election then, even if Jagmeet Singh says, oh yes, for sure now, that means that by the time the election comes, Jagmeet gets his pension. And that's all this is about, is these greedy cocksuckers wanting to take Canadians' money because they fucked up. And they think that if they just suck dick and, get on their knees in front of Justin Trudeau, or Trudeau on his knees in front of them, you know how he is. He's that feminist. Guy probably loves to suck dick. Hey, to each his own, but as far as I'm concerned, he shouldn't be prime minister in that type of capacity. The guy doesn't even know his own gender, for fuck's sakes. He doesn't know other people's gender. Ask any one of these people on the fucking Liberals what a woman is and see what you get. The same answer as a Democrat. All these Liberals are are fucking Democrats in the North. That's it. Hillary Clinton's come up here and talked with them. Chrystia Freeland brought up Hillary Clinton to a all-women's caucus meeting. So, yeah, they've been with Joe Biden doing the same shit that all the Democrats have been doing, and now they're all jumping ship because they know that their time is gone. And look at what happened in the States. Now, after Trump got in, everybody's jumping ship. Everybody's falling downstairs. Everybody's resigning. Just same thing's happening here right now.
Is not a cabinet minister. It is someone that they are attacking simply because they do not share their vision of Canada.
Shut the hell up.
Every single Canadian deserves better than what we hear from the opposition today. Thank you.
The honourable member for Stormont Dundas, South Glengarry.
The Prime Minister's lost control hours before delivering a fiscal update. The Finance Minister resigned, joining 1/5 of the Liberal caucus and saying she doesn't have confidence in the Prime Minister either. And there's only one person left keeping this Prime Minister in power, and that's the leader of the NDP. The fall budget is scheduled to be tabled in 54 minutes, and we don't even know who the Finance Minister is. The Liberals' own cabinet order on succession states if it's not her, it's the Industry Minister, but he says he doesn't want to. So that means it's supposed to go to the disgraced member from Edmonton Centre. The question is, will the other Randy be Canada's next finance minister? And how much is he investing in fraud?
Yeah, there you go. That's Randy's plan all along. Wants to be the finance minister so he can pretend to be strong eagle man with billions of dollars or whatever the hell they call him.
Again, I've asked members to please not do indirectly what they can't do directly by referring to a member by their first name. The Honourable...
They're referring to the other Randy.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, all we see from Conservative members of Parliament is personal attacks and mudslinging against what we need to be doing right now is standing united for our country, making sure that we are protecting the Canadian economy, Canadian jobs, and making things a little bit easier for Canadians. We look
Hit them when they're down.
to the fall economic statement later this afternoon.
Hit them when they're down. Hit them when they're down. Trample them.
The Honourable Member for Halifax West.
Speaker, our government takes the safety of children seriously. That's why we put forward a comprehensive plan to bring Canada into the 21st century and change our online world, making it safer for kids and better for all. The Conservatives are blocking the plan and they're standing in the way of a better future for our kids online. Parents want the Online Harms Act. Experts want the Online Harms Act. Can the minister...
You want a good Online Harms Act? Don't let your kids on the fucking internet. Don't let them go on to Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all this shit. Simple as that. They do not need to be on the internet, on social media sites where adults talk and they don't know what they're talking about. And that's how you get sexual predators, is because they allow kids under 18 to be on social media. So stop allowing kids on social media before they're 18 and you won't have it. Simple as that.
of Justice explain why C-63 must be passed to keep our kids safe?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
That's a censorship bill, isn't it?
Mr. Speaker, last week I asked for unanimous consent to split the Online Harms Act and advance the child protection measures as soon as possible. Every single party got on board except for the Conservatives. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party said no to forcing the removal of child sexual abuse material from the internet. They said no to Amanda Todd's mother, Carol. They said no to Rehtaeh Parsons' mother and all the other parents who are begging us to act. While Conservative inaction keeps child sexual abuse material online, on this side of the House, the government will continue to fight for victims, parents, and kids to keep them safe.
How are you keeping them safe when you allow guys like Paul Bernardo to go to a minimum security jail? When you allow another fucking woman that killed Tory Stafford to go into a jail where there's kids in the same building? How are you keeping people safe? How are you keeping people safe by allowing all these fucking Palestinians to go out and protest every week and cause destruction, cause mayhem, rioting, allowing all this so-called hate speech that you guys are so afraid of, but yet you won't do nothing about it when it's right in your face. But if it's a bunch of fucking free Canadians that are trying to get answers from their government peacefully, you bring in the fucking RCMP, the UN, and everything else, and you stomp all over their rights, literally with horses. So sit down and shut the fuck up, you piece of shit.
Yeah, no one believes you.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. The Prime Minister has completely lost the plot. He's lost control of immigration.
He has.
Of our borders, of public finances.
Reminder, folks, if you haven't yet already, it'd be super awesome if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
20 or 40 members of his caucus.
It's free to do.
Lost the confidence and trust of his right-hand woman, the former Minister of Finance. The Prime Minister has lost everything. Will he finally let go and trigger an election so that Canadians can take back control of their future? The Honourable Minister for Immigration. For Innovation, rather. Mr. Speaker, I am not a new minister of anything, not immigration or anything else. We have no lessons to learn from the Conservatives. Today, what the government will table is an economic update that will be here to invest in Canadians, invest in industry, invest in our workers. But, Mr. Speaker, what we...
Invest, invest, invest. That means spend, spend, spend. That just goes to show how much it's over, and they're just trying to, what most people would say is cop-splain their reasoning for what they're doing. And nobody's buying their shit, just like nobody buys the police's bullshit when they're cop-splaining. What makes you any different, you fucking piece of shit?
Seen today during question period is deplorable. Canadians who are watching us today expect better from the official opposition. Now is the time to work together.
No, we expect better from our government. They're only the opposition. They cannot make rules. They cannot make laws. They cannot pass bills. It takes a majority. And who's keeping you guys in? Jagmeet Singh. That's it. So, again, look at those lips. I bet you there's been a few dicks been passed through that.
To defend our country, to be ready for the next US administration. It's disappointing to see that the opposition is playing political games on a day like today. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker.
Kick them when they're down. It's the best way to do it.
From the Minister for the, well, not the Minister for Finance, he said no, but the Minister for Innovation. The Minister is out of control. His former right-hand woman was very striking in her letter. We have to preserve our fiscal capacity against the United States. It's pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism. We need to recognize the gravity of the moment. The situation is dire. Canadians need to work. So what do we need?
All right, folks. So that's pretty much the end of question period. I'm just watching for the Justin Trudeau update on what he's doing, if he's going to be a coward and pro-government, if he's going to resign, or if he's just going to call an election. It's the only three things that he can do right now. So go over here to Mr. Sunshine Baby's House of Canada and check him out. Probably one of the best on YouTube covering the House of Canada, House of Commons question period, I believe, in Canada. So go over, check them out, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you get it all out. And I will see you guys soon. And